Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So what I'll do today, I will talk about data analytics types. Now, data, as I said, right, in artificial intelligence, data plays a very important role. Without data, you cannot do pretty much anything with AI, right? Because AI is driven by data. So how good is your data will determine the output of your model. So um, so for from a business perspective, right? If I wanted to put a business lens, uh, for me, a data is about information what business holds, and we can use that data um, to train our model to get the desired output, provided we have the right consent and all the legal framework set in place, right? We cannot use the customer data without the consent. That's a pretty unethical practice. So that's why I said, provided we have all the legal and ethical framework in place. Right. So I just wanted to talk about four kinds of data analytics. This is, as you can see, this is a pretty simple one. You don't really need to know the detail part of it. From an exam perspective, you just need to know four types, and you might get question here and there about it, but that's pretty much it. So first of all is the descriptive type. Descriptive analytics type, right? It just to give you information about what happened. So, for instance, Trailhead is a very good example about the credit card transaction. So, if you are an e-commerce customer, right, you buy, let's say, for instance, I often do a lot of shopping from Countdown in New Zealand. So, I submit an item and then I tried to go and make a payment. So, I using credit card or debit card, FPOS card, whichever card you say, the terminology you understand. And the payment gateway behind the scene processed my transaction, and the transaction got often gets successful, provided you have enough money in the card, which is always the case. But that being said, there might be a scenario where the card can get declined. Maybe the card has some security issues, so the card provider might have said, "Hey, I think this is a suspicious transaction," so they blocked the transaction. Right? It happened with me in a Booking.com, and I was trying to book a hotel in Turkey, Istanbul. When I was in Romania this year, I wanted to visit Turkey, Istanbul. It's a beautiful city. For some reason, my card, which is issued in New Zealand, thought it's a suspicious transaction, so my transaction got declined, right? So if you are a business, right, let's say for instance, of Countdown wanted to make a prediction, like Countdown is a supermarket in New Zealand. It's an Australian company. It's called Woolworths in Australia. So and that's is called Countdown in New Zealand. So uh, just don't want it to get into detail. Just assume it's a supermarket, right? It's a supermarket. It's not to assume it is a supermarket. So the Countdown can come up with an estimation, say, hey, sorry, not estimation, can come up with a prediction based on not even prediction. It can analyze what went wrong, right? So if it wanted to happen, how many transactions that's been successful, how many transactions that's been failed, or how many transactions that's been cancelled. So you can use the descriptive data analytics to do that. You can also extend this to other domain as well, not just from a e-commerce perspective. Then we have something called predictive data analytics type, so which involves predicting your future events based on the past data. So if you have lots of data, right? So let's say you are a Countdown, right? You are a supermarket uh, with a fork who've been successful in say doing $1 billion worth of transaction in 2021, 2022, 2023. So based on that data, you might come up with a forecast. The model might say, hey, 2024, the Countdown might make a transaction of $1.2 billion over a year. Or I can run my own business using the predictive to see how many courses I've sold last year and how many courses I've sold year to that, and vice versa. And my model can predict the sales which I'll be making in 2024. So which is one of the predictive data analytics type model can come into equation. Now we have diagnostic, right? Right. So far, if you remember, I spoke about the credit card transaction that can get declined for whatever reason. So descriptive will only give you information of what exactly happened. Okay, these much transaction, so 1,000 transaction got declined, right? But it won't really give you an information about why it's got declined. So that's why the diagnostic analytic, the model that comes in the picture. So it will actually guide you in your understanding by giving you a right troubleshooting option to understand what is the root cause or what have actually triggered this failure and what's the cause for this failure. So this is from a artificial intelligence, from a machine learning perspective. I'm sorry, I'm using the AI. AI is it's just a big umbrella which comprises of machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning, so you name it, right? So, so when I say AI, because like I said, this course is not very technical, so I'm using AI to so that business owners can understand, product owners can understand, Scrum Masters can understand, right? So let's stick to AI, right? So the word AI. So diagnostic analytic type is normally help you diagnose the reason behind the failure. In our case, the credit card transaction, right? Then we have prescriptive. Prescriptive um, is like they say, it suggests a data-driven decision based on past event using machine learning. So that's pretty much in a simple terms. Normally, from exam point of view, you just need to focus on descriptive more, predictive more. Prescriptive, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen. I mean, I'm not saying it's not getting used, right? It does get used, but you don't really need to worry much about it because, like I said, right? I mean, you must be saying, "Hey, this guy is suggesting us not to learn." It's not. It's not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying for this specific certification, you don't have to. But unless if you wanted to get into the details nitty-gritty, then I will recommend you to look at the PyTorch course that talks about different types and how you can leverage those. This is a pretty fantastic course. There are a lot of great tutorials out there, and you can also go to the PyTorch documentation. If you're not a fan of PyTorch, you can also look at the TensorFlow, right? TensorFlow is another one which is a Google product. PyTorch is a Facebook product, right? Now, PyTorch has gained a lot of popularity among data scientists, and a lot of research paper is coming out from that area, right? A lot of scientists are using the PyTorch as a part of the research, unlike Google product, right? TensorFlow. I'm not saying TensorFlow is bad. It's not. I mean, it has its own advantage. It's pretty easy to use. But that being said, right? If you're asking me from a popularity perspective, in 2023, it's PyTorch that stands the popularity context. That wins the popularity context, if I put it that way. But that being said, like I said, it's based on your requirement, based on your understanding. You can learn uh, the Google product. There's nothing wrong with that. You can easily transition to PyTorch. The key is to make sure you understand, right? Because these are just tools, right? Don't be a tool user. I always tell people don't focus too much on tools. Focus on fundamentals, right? You need to understand the algorithms. You need to understand what is supervised learning, what are unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, what are neural networks, different kinds of neural networks, different kinds of error functions. So you need to learn all these stuffs. And someone might ask, hey, can you build a classification model using PyTorch? You could. Can you build a linear regression model using PyTorch? You could. There are a lot of inbuilt libraries, right? So it's not just about the tool, right? You will get inbuilt libraries which will help you. The thing is to understand when to use these models, right? And what's the implication of using certain models. So you need to understand from that perspective, right? So that's one of the things I often tell people: just don't get carried away with fancy names, but fancy, AI jargon. Just try to understand, first of all, the problem you're trying to solve, what is driving the business need, and then if you wanted to get into the technology standpoint, you need to understand why are you going to use this machine learning, impact on performance, how it's going to train the model, the kind of data we need, and the kind of data sanitization we need, and what happens if you have certain error, certain output, how will we minimize the error using a loss function. So you need to learn all of these things, right? So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Tuesday. Adios.